Hey everybody, this is JDGaming back today with a deck profile of my Dandylion Crane Plants deck. I don't know what to call this thing. It borrows a bunch of different aspects from crane plants, just generic rank 3 Xyz, plant synchro, a bunch of things, but pretty much I wanted to build a strategy that abuses Dandelion, so this is kind of the hodgepodge collection that I came up with, and it's really something that I wanted to work on forever, ever since Debris got semi-limited. I mean, I loved using Crane way back in Psychics, and then Phantom Knights of Breaksword finally came out, and I just wanted some way besides Serene Psychic Witch to really take advantage of that Scrap Dragon-like effect. So it's just a conglomeration of a bunch of things. You could call it whatever you want, Dandy.deck, you could call it Plant Synchro, you could call it Black and White Control, but basically it is going to be a fun combo-oriented deck that takes advantage of tokens to really limit the opponent's plays. So we are going to do a step-by-step deck build of this as usual, but if you don't want to see that, you can go ahead and click Melee of the Trees. There's an annotation there that'll take you to the end of the video where we do the traditional alphabetical deck profile. So without further ado, let's get started. So starting off to establish a theme, we'll begin with our all-star monster. Dandylion, of course, doesn't need a huge introduction, but pretty much what you do with him is spawn a bunch of tokens, and because he's an earth monster, you can use him for a lot of cool plays like Melee of the Trees, and then these tokens can be used for a variety of card effects and synchro summoning, so this is the card we want to abuse as much as possible. I'm especially excited about this card right now because it became semi-limited in the OCG. Debris Dragon is at 3 in the OCG, so if we see those trends here, this deck's going to be even better, so I wanted to make something kind of as like a rough draft in case we see those same changes, and then I can just go ham once the cards are even less limited. We are, of course, running with this. Debris Dragon and Crane are our main all-star monsters to go and keep bringing back Dandylion. So Debris Dragon, of course, brings back anything with 500 attack or less. This lets you go for level 7 synchro while getting tokens on the board, so you can Black Rose, you can go for any number of level 7 dragons, and then those tokens, if you already have any, can let you go for higher level synchros, like a Scrap Dragon with extra fodder to destroy, or a Trishula Dragon of the Ice Barrier. So Debris, of course, needs no introduction, and we are running 2 for him. And then Crane is something that some people know, some people don't. It's an interesting reverse toolbox tour guide in a sense where if you have any level 3 in your grave, like Dandy, you can summon it to the board when this is normal summon, but then that monster's effects are negated on the board. So you summon this, bring back Dandylion, and when Dandy goes to the grave, you get its tokens still because its effects aren't negated in the graveyard. So that lets you go for Xyz summons with it. You could detach the Dandylion for like Melee and do things, or you can just go and synchro using materials like this as well. So that's very cool just to get you free monsters and to make sure you have Dandylion on the board. The best thing I think about Crane is the fact that it is an earth monster, which means we are able to go and play something along the lines of Melee of the Trees. So Melee is really cool because this is essentially the plant toolbox in a single card. It lets you either Foolish Burial 1 card straight from your deck to the grave, so trigger Dandylion, load up your plant tuners, or you can go and special summon anything from your grave back. So this is really cool because it lets you make sure you get your Dandy back again and again. Only problem with Melee is that you need earth monsters to summon it, so we are running the triple Crane, which are earth monsters along with our Dandylion, so we can just keep abusing that. So that is the main central core of the deck, and as you can see, it relies very heavily on Dandylion. So how can we make sure that we get this thing? Well, obvious answer. We start off with 3 Lone Fire Blossom because this is part of that classic plant synchro engine, lets us go and summon Dandy turn 1, and in this deck, it's not a horrible thing just summoning Dandylion in defense and setting one of your enemy controllers or something, because usually you can go and set up for a big play the following turn while being able to defend against your opponent. So very cool card. And then we are running the 1 Mathman because Mathematician lets us go and yard the Dandylion immediately, and since he's an earth monster, he synergizes with a lot of these cards to be able to go for your Melee, so he's pretty much a really solid turn 1 setup card. And you'll notice this deck doesn't always go off turn 1, it usually just sets up Dandylion turn 1 and then follows up with a normal summon of one of these guys on the following turn. So to help speed things up, we are running the 1 Foolish Burial, which will let us go and set up Dandy without the normal summon, and we are playing the 1-for-1 along with these 2 classic plant tuners, and that just lets us unlock a bunch of plays, lets us access our extra deck toolbox, and then hopefully gives us some more plays that don't rely on that normal summon. Now time to discuss some cards that go and help make that core we established a little stronger yet. We're starting off with 3 copies of Construction Train Signal Red. Now I know some of you guys love this thing, I love this thing, but some of you guys don't even know what this is. So it's a level 3 Earth Machine monster, 1000 attack, 13 defense, so kind of meh on the stat line, but it says when your opponent's monster declares an attack, it doesn't even have to be direct. You can special summon this card from your hand. This guy becomes the attack target of that same attack, and you go to damage calculation, so no more effects can be played once that starts resolving and summons itself, and then it can't die in that battle. So what that means is, if you have a key monster like your melee on board, you go and you summon this in defense to ward off an attack, and if your opponent doesn't have a second monster that can kill the melee, you get to use her effect the following turn. Another cool thing is because these are Earth monsters, you can actually use these to make a second Earth monster for free. So if you have something already on the board, this becomes your second Earth. If you have nothing, you can just go and special this Construction Train and then follow up with a normal summon of something as simple as Dandylion, and then you can go and make your plays. So definitely a very powerful defensive option. I really do like this thing at 3. Some people might not want it at 3. Definitely play at least 2 of this though, because it's a very tricky card that helps you go and deal with your opponent's offensive options while setting up your main plays. Gen X Ally Birdman's a really cool card because, of course, lets you bounce one of your monsters on the field back to your hand to special this from your hand, and as a level 3 tuner, you can have a lot of applications with this. So, obviously, you get to go and summon this as a tuner for free, essentially, and gonna let you go and make bigger plays because you can just synchro up with it. But you can return your hand traps like Construction Train. You can return things like Debris Dragon, Crane, your Mathematician. A lot of monsters in this deck actually benefit from being reused, especially if your opponent hits you with something like Effect Failure or whatever. You could just recycle it right back with the Birdman. So definitely a very powerful one-of in this deck. Not sure if I'd ever want to bump it up if this thing were to become less restricted than it is, but definitely the one tech I am not disappointed with. 2 Mech C, following kind of like the hand traps with the Construction Train. This, of course, lets you draw. It's an Earth monster, which isn't too relevant because we're not going for like Naturia Beast right now, but you could always side an Earth tuner and do something with that. Main thing is this is a defensive option, gets you more pieces for your combo so you can go off in a more powerful way the following turn, and because it's a 500 attack monster, you can just bring it back with Debris Dragon. You can use it for a lot of things like that. So overall, I think Maxi is worth maining in this, even if you're not playing against like a really heavy special summon meta, though most people I guess nowadays are. 1 Soul Charge, of course, is bonkers in a deck that plays triple Lone Fire and all the plant tuners, so that is a necessity. And then I am running a Terratop engine. This was actually not the core focus of the deck because although usually you go like Dante or something like this, I never really wanted to go Dante because there were too many spells I was playing that I did not want to mill. So instead we're focusing on some other rank 3s that I'll get to. And unfortunately, as a wind, Terratop can't even be used for melee, which kind of sucks, and you might be thinking, well, why on earth are you playing this thing? Well, it is a free special summon monster that can be used for any Xyz or any synchro. Don't forget, Speedroids are a synchro archetype. So if we throw in not 1 but 2 Takatone boards, what that does is ensure that we can expect even our second Terratop to be live. We could special it for free, get a free Takatoneborg, special that, and because these are both both wind monsters, excuse me, you could use them pretty interestingly with things like Spore and Debris Dragon, because since these are also Earths, you get your Takatoneborg back. It's never really dead. You have enough things to special summon the Borg, so like second copy just ensures your Terratop gives you a free material on the board, whether that's an Xyz that plays a supporting role or just free synchro fodder for a big like Trishula play or something. So overall, very helpful. Now it's time to flesh out the rest of the main deck. So the supporting lineup begins with triple JDGaming here. So Enemy Controller is of course a very versatile card. Lets you neg 1, kind of like Book of Moon, just to block an opponent's attack. So that's an interesting play. But with this deck, you spawn so many tokens that second effect to steal your opponent's monster lets you steal games. It lets you steal your opponent's monsters so they can't go for an extra deck play. A variety of really powerful effects, and definitely something that I want at 3 in this strategy. We're also in that lineup playing triple creature swap. I know this thing is nowhere near as selective as the enemy controller, but it doesn't target, which you can't deny is very powerful. And when you're giving your opponent a free 0 attack monster that you potentially could have shifted to attack position, can do free damage, or you can just Black Rose through that defense monster, this ends up setting up for a lot of free damage, and pretty much any monster you get from your opponent is going to be better than the token you give them. So definitely worth running the triple creature swap. This is where the annoying, it's like trading. You're trading cards with your opponent. That's the point of this game, right? One Scapegoat is essentially an extra defensive layer, spawns tokens to make sure these are more live, and helps you go for bigger plays. So like this is more of just like a for fun slot I decided to play around with. Scapegoat's really not that bad in this strategy because you have so much support off of those tokens. Definitely recommend you at least try it out. And then last in the defensive lineup here for spells, we have a Book of Moon. I mean, this is just a generic shut down your opponent, mainly because this deck really dies to floodgate monsters like Vanity's Fiends, so I wanted to have an out to things like that because I play in a meta where we have Monarchs, so there's that. To deal with our opponent's board, we play the one Raigeki. This is similar to Book of Moon, just want to get rid of annoying floodgate monsters. Double Twin Twisters to take care of the opponent's back row. And the cool thing about this is you can just go and discard your plant synchro pieces or your extra Hakatomborgs or something, and then it's never really dead. So helps you simplify the game in your favor, go off with a big combo, and then ultimately win the game with the cleared board. So that's why that's in there. And then our only 2 traps are 2 copies of Breakthrough Skill. This is similar to the Book of Moon and the Raigeki. Shuts off annoying monsters, but also lets you block things like Trish, because if you get Trished, it kind of hurts in this deck. You don't need to rely on the Dandylion all the time. Like, there are games where you can use the rest of the deck, go for your other synchro plays, and it's possible. It's just Dandylion gives you the free advantage, and you ideally not have to deal with it being banished. This will kind of help with that. And finally, the last tech slot is Neospatian Grand Mole, just because he's an Earth. That means you're actually able to go and get your melee play off of this if you recur it with Crane, but of course lets you push out annoying monsters that are just blocking you. It's just another out to floodgate monsters or monsters you can't deal with in general. So very, very cool card. And finally, it's time to go through the extra deck. So as you would imagine, Dandylion spawns tokens, and we have level 1 tuners, so a single Formula Synchron is a must. And usually in this type of deck, you would go for double Formula. But what I'm finding is very helpful is in all my decks these days, I'm running a Tatsunoko along with the Formula, because what this does is essentially you have a level 1 tuner, and you have your tokens, right? So let's pretend this is like the level 1 tuner. So if you go and sync 1 and this, you end up with the Formula Synchron, right? So you end up with 3 levels on the board. You drew 1, but instead of just bringing back the glow-up bulb or something and going for a second formula where you're locked down, it's a lot stronger to just go for Tatsunoko, who has the ability to synchro using a monster from your hand, because then you can turn any of your level 3 guys into a more useful level 6. And then if you have any tokens, then that lets you level modulate that synchro up above level 6 as well. So very powerful choice here. We are running the 1 Haster at level 4 because in this deck, we want to abuse the fact that this is a monster that sticks on the field and potentially steals your opponent's card. This deck has double Debris Dragon. It has very easy access to Scrap Dragon. And pretty much what Haster does is, when he's sent to the grave first from the field, even with your own synchro combo, you equip your opponent's guy and Fiendish Chain it. No attacks, no effects. Then if you use something like Scrap Dragon and pop the Haster, you steal the monster that was equipped to it, and that just helps you win. So very powerful card. And then on top of like things like just comboing with this through synchro plays or Scrap Dragoning this, you can enemy controller it. There are just so many ways to get this off your board to trigger it. So very powerful level 4 monster. Level 5, we just have the Librarian because there's just not a ton of room in this deck, so I just wanted a simple synchro engine that goes and has enough of each level, so just one of everything. You can synchro climb. Lets you, of course, draw, so that's why it was the best choice. At 6, we want to be able to use the Debris Dragon at all times, so that's why the Coral Dragon's in here. At 7, we have Black Rose Dragon and Clearwing Synchro Dragon. Black Rose is a no-brainer because on top of being able to just nuke the opponent with a free debris, you're able to just go and give your opponent a token with creature swap and then shift that to attack position and then slam for 24 or more depending on what else you have on the board. So that is a must run. This is more of a secondary slot. I wanted a dragon just because I can bring it out with debris. And again, when I'm playing against a bunch of monarchs and stuff, it's an interesting enough choice because it's able to have kind of a shutdown effect. But this is more of like a freebie slot. You can choose to play something else if you'd like. I do think the second dragon synchro comes off often enough that you may want it. But again, if you have any sort of setup on your board, you can usually go for Scrap Dragon or Trishula, so like that's something to keep in mind. But that is the Synchro lineup, and then the Xyz, we already have the Melier, as I mentioned. And then on top of this, we have just a few more Xyz monsters that play a supporting role. So up first, Mech-equipped Engineer lets you just go and make one of your guys invincible for the turn. And the reason this is so good is because you keep your guy like Melier on the board for an additional turn, and all of a sudden, your opponent's not able to crack your synchro board. Like, you use this, shift it to defense, protect it. I don't care if this dies in the following turn because that just frees up some zones on my end, and now I can use Melier again the following turn and then just set up for a big synchro play. So that's the point of the Engineer. It's a very powerful keep my guy alive card and lets you get extra advantage off of monsters like Melier, Black Rose, just anything that has the ability to just keep bringing a +1 or more every turn. We are playing a single Acid Golem. This is more of like a pet choice I decided to use. I wanted a lot of attack power, and I considered Dante. Didn't really like milling all my spells, so I didn't want Dante. And then the fact that this thing is at 3k made it a better choice than Leviathan, I think, because you could just go and attack with this, then enemy controller to steal another guy, and then attack with them, so you're not locked down in special summons. Or you could just creature swap this thing once it's out of materials. So like, you have enough support in your spell lineup that the Acid Golem becomes a safe play, and so at that point, you know, play the full 3k attack. It's a very powerful card. Along that line, we have Nightmare Shark, whose ability lets us attack directly. This lets you cut your opponent's life in half in 2 turns from full, so that's really good. But most of the time, you just snipe your opponent with it. It's essentially Heartland Draco for rank 4 decks, or in rank 3 decks. So it's like Heartland Draco in rank 3. So yeah. Phantom Knights of Breaksword, of course, lets us essentially Scrap Dragon. And so since you can go summon this, and then you can just spawn Dandy tokens to pop with this guy, is a very powerful choice. And then to make all these guys work even better, we have a Downward Magician. So sometimes you summon your Melier, you use it for its effect, and then you want to get rid of it because it's kind of weak, and you don't want to just lose your monster in battle. You can go Downward Magician, just power it up in main phase 2, your opponent won't be able to kill through it, and then you can start doing extra damage. So like if you shift a token over with Creature Swap, start poking through that. So overall, an interesting choice. If you watched the video in its entirety, thanks. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching this profile as much as I did putting the deck together. Let's do this. So first we have triple Construction Train Signal Red, triple Crane, single Dandelion, double Debris Dragon, Gen X Ally Birdman, Glow Up Bulb, triple Lone Fire Blossom, one Math Man, double Max C, Neospatian Grand Mole, double Taketomborg with triple Terror Top, and a single Spore. For spells, we have Book of Moon, triple Creature Swap, triple Enemy Controller, Foolish Burial, 1-for-1 Raigeki, Scapegoat, Soul Charge, and double Twin Twisters. And then for traps, 2 Breakthrough Skill to round out the deck at 40 in the main. Then for our extra, we have Formula Synchron at 2, Tatsunoko at 3, Hastur at 4, Librarian at 5, Coral Dragon at 6, Black Rose and Clearwing Synchro Dragon at 7, Scrap Dragon at 8, Trishula at 9, and then for Xyz we have Mech-equipped Engineer, Melier of the Trees, number 30 Acid Golem, number 47 Nightmare Shark, the Phantom Knights of Breaksword, and Downward Magician. So in the comments below, let me know what you think of the deck, and if you decide to try it out, then I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. If you liked the video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up to help spread it to as many other people who may enjoy it as well. And if you really enjoyed what you saw today, then I invite you guys to subscribe to JDGaming for more regular Yu-Gi-Oh updates. Thanks guys, this is JD Gaming. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.